When viewers talk about stories they love to rewatch, the name Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu often comes up with a quiet smile. Not because of loud drama or shocking twists, but because of something rarer. Their on-screen stories feel warm, sincere, and timeless. You can return to them after a long day and still feel the same calm excitement you felt the first time. This story begins with that first spark, the moment when two characters meet, and the audience feels it instantly. No need for big words or forced scenes. Just a look, a pause, a shared silence that somehow says everything. In the stories viewers love to rewatch, Barış often appears as the calm center. His characters are steady, thoughtful, sometimes reserved, but never distant. There is a sense that he listens more than he speaks. Elçin, on the other hand, brings light into every scene. Her characters carry warmth, honesty, and a quiet strength that feels natural, not performed. When these two energies meet, something balanced is created. Neither overpowers the other. They meet in the middle. The first meeting scene is usually simple. A workplace, a chance encounter, a misunderstanding that turns into a conversation. Nothing dramatic. Yet viewers remember it clearly. Why? Because it feels real. Their expressions do not rush. The camera does not need to explain what is happening. The audience understands through small details. A half smile, a raised eyebrow, a moment of hesitation before speaking. What makes these stories rewatchable is trust. The characters trust each other slowly, and the audience trusts the story. There is no fear that something harmful or uncomfortable will suddenly appear. Everything unfolds with care. Even conflict feels gentle. Disagreements are handled with words, not anger. Silence is used as meaning, not as tension. As the story moves forward, the connection grows through everyday moments. Sharing coffee, walking side by side, working toward a common goal. These scenes may sound ordinary, but that is their strength. Viewers see parts of their own lives reflected back at them. The stories do not shout. They quietly invite you in. One of the most loved elements is how respect is shown. Barış's characters never try to dominate the scene. They give space. They observe. Elçin's characters are written with independence and clarity. She is not there to be rescued. She stands on her own, and that balance creates admiration rather than tension. This dynamic is one reason viewers feel safe returning to these stories again and again. Another reason is emotional consistency. The tone does not suddenly change. The story knows what it wants to be: warm, hopeful, and sincere. Even when challenges appear, they are there to strengthen the bond, not to break it for shock value. Problems are solved through understanding, patience, and growth. This makes the story monetization safe and family-friendly, without feeling boring. Rewatching these stories feels like meeting old friends. You already know what will happen, yet you still enjoy the journey. You notice new details each time. A look you missed before. A line that feels deeper now than it did the first time. This is the mark of a well-loved story. Viewers often say they rewatch not for the plot, but for the feeling. The calm happiness. The gentle romance. The sense that kindness still matters. Barış and Elçin's stories remind audiences that love does not need to be loud to be strong. It can be steady. It can grow slowly. It can feel safe. This is only the beginning. In the next part, the story will explore how this connection deepens, how small moments turn into meaningful bonds, and why viewers become emotionally invested without even realizing it. As the story continues, what truly draws viewers in is not a single big turning point, but a series of quiet moments that slowly build something strong. This is where rewatch value is born. The audience begins to feel that every scene matters, even the simplest ones. In these stories, time is allowed to move naturally. There is no rush to define feelings or force emotions into words. Instead, connection grows through shared experiences. A long day at work. A small success celebrated together. A moment of disappointment where no advice is given, only presence. These scenes feel familiar, almost personal, and that is why viewers remember them so clearly. One of the most loved aspects is how communication is shown. Conversations are honest and calm. When misunderstandings happen, they are not exaggerated into chaos. The characters pause, think, and then speak. This creates a sense of emotional maturity that viewers appreciate deeply. It feels refreshing to watch characters who listen as much as they talk. As their bond deepens, trust becomes the foundation. Trust is shown not through promises, but through actions. Standing by each other in small decisions. Respecting boundaries. Supporting dreams without trying to control them. These details may seem subtle, but they create a powerful emotional impact. Viewers feel safe investing their hearts in the story because the relationship is built on care, not fear. Another reason audiences love to rewatch these moments is the balance between closeness and independence. The characters grow together, but they also grow individually. Each has goals, responsibilities, and inner struggles. The relationship does not erase who they are. Instead, it strengthens them. This balance sends a positive message without ever feeling like a lesson. Silence continues to play an important role. There are scenes where no words are spoken, yet everything is understood. A shared look across the room, sitting side by side without needing to fill the space. These moments are powerful because they feel real. In real life, not every feeling needs to be explained. Viewers recognize this truth, and it pulls them closer to the story. As emotions become deeper, vulnerability begins to show. Past experiences, quiet fears, and unspoken worries slowly surface. But they're handled gently. There is no judgment, no pressure. Just acceptance. This creates emotional warmth that stays with the audience long after the episode ends. It also makes rewatching comforting, especially during quiet or stressful times. The storytelling remains consistent and safe. There are no sudden negative turns or unnecessary tension. Challenges appear, but they serve a purpose. They help the characters understand each other better. They encourage growth. Problems are faced together, not used to create distance. This approach keeps the story suitable for all audiences and fully monetization-friendly. Viewers often notice how natural everything feels. The chemistry does not rely on dramatic scenes. It lives in the details. The way they walk together. The way they smile after a shared joke. The way they support each other without asking for attention. These are the moments people replay in their minds and return to on screen. By this point in the story, the audience is emotionally invested. Not because they were pushed into it, but because they were gently guided. The connection feels earned. Viewers care not only about what happens next, but about how it happens. They want to stay in this world a little longer. Rewatching brings a deeper appreciation. The first time, viewers feel the emotion. The second time, they understand it. They see the groundwork being laid. They recognize how carefully the relationship is built. This layered storytelling is why these stories age so well and never feel outdated. As the bond grows stronger, there is a quiet sense of anticipation. Something meaningful is forming, and the audience can feel it. Not excitement mixed with anxiety, but excitement mixed with calm. The story promises growth, warmth, and emotional honesty. In the next part, the story will move into a phase where feelings become clearer, choices start to matter more, and the connection is tested in gentle but meaningful ways. By the time the story reaches this stage, something has clearly changed. The connection that once lived quietly in shared moments now begins to surface in subtle, unmistakable ways. Viewers feel it immediately, even before the characters fully understand it themselves. This is one of the reasons audiences love to rewatch this part. It captures that delicate space between realization and acceptance. The characters start noticing each other differently. A familiar smile now feels warmer. A simple conversation carries more weight. Small absences are felt more deeply than expected. Nothing is announced out loud, yet everything is slowly becoming clear. The The storytelling remains gentle, allowing emotions to rise naturally without pressure. What makes this phase special is emotional honesty. The characters do not suddenly become perfect or fearless. Instead, they become more thoughtful. They choose their words carefully. They hesitate before speaking, not out of confusion, but because they understand that what they say now matters. Viewers recognize this feeling from real life, and that recognition creates a strong emotional bond with the story. Moments of clarity arrive quietly. A scene where one character realizes they feel safest with the other. A moment where laughter feels deeper than before. A pause where eye contact lasts just a second longer than usual. These are not dramatic revelations, but they are powerful. They show growth without forcing it. At the same time, internal conflict begins to appear. Not conflict between the characters, but within them. Questions surface. Is this the right time? Is this feeling mutual? What happens if things change? These thoughts are never shown as fear-driven drama. They are shown as natural reflections. This keeps the story grounded and emotionally safe. Viewers appreciate how respect continues to guide every interaction. Boundaries are honored. Feelings are not demanded or rushed. Each character allows the other the space to arrive at understanding on their own terms. This patience adds depth to the relationship and reinforces why it feels so healthy and rewatchable. One of the most memorable elements of this part is shared support. When one character faces a challenge, the other is present, not to fix everything, but to listen. Sometimes support is shown through words. Other times, it is shown through silence. The story understands that comfort does not always need explanation. As feelings grow clearer, communication becomes more open. Conversations deepen. Topics move beyond daily routines and into hopes, values, and future possibilities. These talks are calm and sincere. There is no pressure to agree on everything. Differences are respected, and understanding is valued more than winning an argument. This emotional maturity resonates strongly with viewers. Rewatching these scenes often reveals new layers. A line that seemed casual now feels meaningful. A reaction that once went unnoticed now feels important. This layered writing gives the story longevity. It rewards attentive viewers and makes repeat watching feel fresh rather than repetitive. Importantly, the tone remains consistent. There is no sudden negativity or unnecessary tension. Even moments of uncertainty are handled with warmth. The story never threatens the emotional safety it has built. This consistency is key for monetization and long-term audience trust. As this part comes to a close, there is a quiet sense of readiness. The characters are not rushing forward, but they are no longer standing still. Feelings have found their voice, even if they are not yet spoken out loud. The audience feels hopeful, calm, and emotionally satisfied. This is the stage where viewers often pause and smile. Not because something dramatic happened, but because something meaningful did. The relationship feels real, earned, and strong enough to grow further. In the next part, choices will become more intentional, and the connection will begin to shape the path forward in gentle but lasting ways. At this point in the story, the connection has weight. It is no longer something that exists only in quiet glances or unspoken understanding. It has become part of daily life, influencing decisions in small but meaningful ways. Viewers love this phase because it feels grounded. Nothing is rushed, yet nothing feels uncertain either. The characters begin to make choices with awareness. Not dramatic life-changing decisions all at once, but thoughtful adjustments. Choosing to spend time together, even on busy days. Prioritizing honest conversations over avoidance. Being present not out of obligation, but because it feels right. These choices may look simple, but they reveal emotional commitment. One of the strongest elements of this part is intentionality. Every action feels considered. When one character shows up, it is because they want to, not because the story forces them to. This makes the relationship feel stable and sincere. Viewers sense that the bond is no longer accidental. It is chosen. Work and personal responsibilities continue to exist, which adds realism. The story does not isolate the relationship from the rest of life. Instead, It shows how two people support each other while navigating their own paths. Encouragement replaces pressure. Understanding replaces expectation. This balance makes the story relatable and comforting. There are moments where choices are not easy. A decision might require patience. Another might require compromise. But even then, respect leads the way. Disagreements are handled calmly. Opinions are shared without judgment. Listening becomes more important than being right. This approach keeps the emotional tone safe and mature. Viewers often return to this part because it reflects a kind of relationship many people hope for. One built on steady growth rather than dramatic swings. The story quietly says that love can be peaceful without being boring. That consistency can be exciting in its own way. Emotional support deepens here. When one character feels uncertain about the future, the other offers reassurance without control. When doubts appear, they are acknowledged, not dismissed. This creates an atmosphere of trust. Trust that feelings will be respected. Trust that honesty will not be punished. Another rewatchable aspect is how happiness is portrayed. It is not loud or showy. It appears in shared routines, in laughter over small things, in comfort found in familiarity. These moments remind viewers that joy does not always need a reason. Sometimes it grows naturally when people feel safe together. The pacing remains gentle. The story gives space for reflection. There are scenes where characters think before speaking, where silence allows clarity. This slower rhythm invites the audience to breathe, to settle into the story rather than rush through it. Many viewers appreciate this, especially when revisiting episodes during quiet moments in their own lives. As this part unfolds, the relationship begins to influence the future. Plans start to include each other naturally, not as a grand declaration, but as an assumption. This subtle shift feels powerful. It shows that the bond has become part of how they see tomorrow. Rewatching brings a sense of calm satisfaction. Viewers notice how carefully everything has been built, how nothing feels forced, how the story respects both the characters and the audience. It is the kind of storytelling that does not demand attention but earns it. Toward the end of this part, there is a gentle sense of stability. Not an ending, but a foundation. The characters are aligned, emotionally and mentally. They are ready for what comes next, not because they are perfect, but because they are honest with themselves and each other. This is where many viewers feel deeply connected. The story reflects emotional security, mutual respect, and quiet commitment. Qualities that do not fade with time, which is why people return to these moments again and again. In the next part, the story will explore how this stability is tested not by conflict, but by change, and how growth can strengthen a bond when handled with care. By the time the story reaches this chapter, the relationship has found its rhythm. There is comfort, trust, and a quiet confidence between the characters. But what keeps viewers deeply engaged is how growth enters the story without disturbing that calm. Change arrives gently, not as a threat, but as an opportunity to understand each other more deeply. Growth in this part does not come from conflict between them. Instead, it comes from life itself. New responsibilities, shifting priorities, and personal goals begin to take shape. Each character is evolving in their own way, and the story takes care to show that growth does not mean separation. It means learning how to walk forward together while still honoring individual paths. Viewers love rewatching this phase because it reflects real life. People change. Dreams expand. Circumstances shift. Yet the connection remains steady. The characters do not resist growth out of fear. They acknowledge it, talk about it, and adapt. This emotional flexibility is shown as strength, not weakness. Communication becomes even more meaningful here. Conversations are deeper and more reflective. There is openness about hopes and concerns. Nothing is hidden to protect pride. Instead, honesty is used to protect trust. This creates a sense of emotional safety that viewers find comforting and rare. One of the most touching aspects of this part is encouragement. When one character steps into something new, the other does not feel left behind. They offer support without comparison. Pride replaces insecurity. This mutual encouragement strengthens the bond and shows that love can be a place where growth is celebrated, not feared. There are scenes where distance exists, not emotionally, but physically or mentally due to responsibilities. Yet, even in these moments, the connection remains present. A thoughtful message, a remembered detail, a moment of understanding without explanation. These small gestures reassure the audience that closeness is not defined by constant presence, but by consistency. Viewers often notice how mature the emotional tone feels. There is no jealousy-driven tension, no unnecessary misunderstandings. When concerns arise, they are addressed calmly. The story trusts its audience enough to allow peace to exist without adding drama. This trust is one reason people feel comfortable returning to these episodes again and again. Another rewatchable element is how patience is portrayed. Growth takes time, and the story respects that. Characters allow each other space to learn, to adjust, and to reflect. There is no pressure to have everything figured out immediately. This patience adds realism and warmth to the narrative. As personal journeys continue, shared values become clearer. The characters begin to see not just who the other is now, but who they are becoming. This recognition deepens respect. It creates a sense of alignment that feels earned rather than convenient. Viewers sense that this connection is strong because it is built on understanding, not idealization. Quiet reassurance plays a big role in this part. When doubts appear, they are met with calm presence. When uncertainty surfaces, it is not dismissed or exaggerated. It is acknowledged and gently eased. This emotional steadiness makes the story feel safe and emotionally healthy, which is important for audiences seeking comfort and positivity. Rewatching Part 5 often reveals how carefully the foundation was laid earlier. Small habits established before now carry more meaning. Shared routines feel richer. Familiar conversations feel deeper. The audience begins to appreciate how each phase of the story builds upon the last without losing its tone. There is also a sense of quiet joy here. Not excitement driven by surprise, but happiness rooted in understanding. Moments of laughter feel natural. Silence feels comfortable. Togetherness feels easy. These scenes remind viewers that contentment can be powerful, even without dramatic highs. Toward the end of this part, growth begins to shape the future more clearly. Plans are not dramatic announcements, but thoughtful considerations. The characters naturally include each other when thinking ahead. This inclusion feels organic, not forced. It signals a bond that has matured with time and care.